welcome back to Make the Music, and in today's video we're going to be breaking down the song Home by DAUGHTRY, a hit in the mid-2000s, bringing that sort of 2000s rock alternative pop sound to the mainstream in the vein of bands like DAUGHTRY and Nickelback that were popular during that time. So I'm going to go ahead and break down how I got this sound in the video down below. I've done a bunch of these match the sound videos. You should check out that playlist in the top left, and if you're looking to get help with your home recordings to get the sound you want, you should contact me down below and we can set up a session to get your recordings to sound exactly like they do in your head. Okay, let's dive into the Reaper session and we can check out how I got this sound. Okay, so we're in the Reaper session here. You can see that the not too complex of a track, only 22 total tracks to get this sound. It was fairly straightforward. Let me start off by showing you the master bus chain, only 4 plugins. I tried to keep it real simple. I also tried to mix it in the style of how CLA would mix it, since CLA was the mix engineer on this record. He has a very unique style, and I tried to mimic that a bit. The first thing off is the virtual mix rack, trying to emulate the SSL console, that sound, and just a little bit of the silky and big meters. Not too much on this track. I didn't do a whole lot to it. It doesn't add a lot in the end, but it's kind of nice. EQ just boosted and added some stuff that I thought made it sound more like the original. Not a lot of logic to these decisions, just some gut changes in the moment. A very important SSL compressor that really is going to be hitting the track and getting it to work as a whole here. Let's play it. You can see how much gain reduction is going on. You can see it goes up to about 3 dB of gain reduction there. And, we've got the attack set to 30, release set to very quick, 2-to-1 ratio. Not going too overboard with that, but enough to get it to kind of punch and hit the drums, and then a limiter to bring it up to volume. So without all these tracks, if I bypass them all, more presence, more loudness, and that limiting, of course. So now let's get into some of the individual tracks here. Let's get into the drums. So drums, all we've got is a kit and a tambourine panned all the way to the right. So let's talk about this drum kit for a second. EZdrummer 3, I just use the EZdrummer 3 main room. I have a custom CLA kit that I've created, which uses the 14x24 Mazzoff stainless steel kick. And then I have a custom snare, CLA snare, that I've created from some samples that I use for the snare. CLA is known for its very smacky, present snare sound. And everything else was from the main room. I didn't even change much on the mixer. Everything just kind of seemed to work. Maybe adjusted some of the ambience levels a little bit, but you can get a CLA drum sound with EZdrummer 3. I think no problem. Just some adjustments to the kick and snare might be necessary. Then I have a tambourine. That's just EZdrummer 3 using the tambourine steel 1. Nothing too complicated there. Let's talk about the processing. Just virtual mix rack, the virtual channel, a little revival, adding some shimmer, and then compressing the whole kit just a little bit. That may seem like a lot of compression, but notice the mix knob's at 21%. So it's just kind of like some parallel compression. So if I take the virtual mix rack off, it's just catching some of the heavy transients and bringing them in and just kind of leveling out the volume a little bit in the dynamics, a little bit in the drums to make sure they're not too pokey in the track. Okay, now let's get to the bass guitar. We've got an amp and DI track. Let me play you the bass here. So very top end, very stringy. That's how CLA likes to mix his bass guitars. Let's talk about the amp selection. This is Amplitude 5 that I'm using for the bass amp. The SVXCL is what I'm using, and there was a little bit of compression going in. I just used the Comp Rock preset and it worked pretty well. You see it's a lot rounder than after I added the processing. And then it's mixed in with the DI. I did not swap the phase. It seemed to sound fine. But you can hear both in the track. And I just have them mixed until they felt right. Let's go to the processing here. SSL channel, of course, that seemed to make sense. We did some top filter and some bottom filter, rolling off at 43 and 13K. Then I added a lot of 60 hertz, about 5.7 dB. And I even looks like I added some 250 here at the bottom to kind of give it a little more oomph. And then added some stringiness at 4K and 8K as well. So just adding a lot to this bass guitar. Excuse me, let me solo the bass. Some fullness and some stringy top end. I'm using the CLA 76 stereo compressor. You can see that's pegging the bass pretty good. I just have the bass preset going on. Makes it sit well with the drums. I just want to make sure each time a note was played, we could hear that low end and hear the bass present, not feel like the low end is dropping in and out. That's not really a good approach to the sound. So that's what I got going on with the bass. Let's talk about guitars for a second here. It's 5 total guitars. We have a right distortion guitar, going with power chords, and the left. Playing some more open chord selections there. I have the same, I think maybe I have different amps. So for the right amp, I'm using a Marshall tone from Overloud with a little gain pedal. And then the left channel, I'm using the exact same preset. So same preset there. Then I have some cleaner guitars. And they're playing open chords. And so the one on the left is a Vox sound, which you can kind of clearly hear on the record. It seems like, I think Phil X recorded these guitars and he's a fan of that Vox sound. So there's just more articulation going on in these left and right ones. I'm not one who's a fan of relentlessly or unnecessarily overdubbing guitars. It can kind of clutter your mix, but if you find a specific purpose for the guitars, for example, the distortions are playing power chords, they're very pushy, they're very mushy, and then the clean ones are really kind of articulating the chord sound. They can be a good complementary. They can kind of work together, and that's what I kind of hear on the track. Then there's that clean lead, and this sounds like this. I believe I have some automation going on too with the volume. Yeah, I'm turning that clean up when it's playing this part, as you can hear in the track. So important there. This clean tone, I believe, is the same. It's a DV Mark. I'm using the SSL channel stereo to filter it a little bit. There's also quite a bit of compression in the amped track itself. I used a little adverb reverb to just make it sound a little more ambient. So all together, guitars sound like this. Then one instance of SSL channel stereo, I'm filtering out some lows and some highs, adding some 8K. We know CLA loves his 8K on his guitars, a little 4.5K, and I'm taking out some 830 hertz just to kind of clean them up. So if I bypassed it here, so they're really dark with that EQ off, and they're really present with the EQ on. Job is to get those guitars out of the lower mids, let the bass guitar take care of that. Now there's some acoustics, and these are mixed really, really bright to sit on the edges of the track. Pick selection is really key when it comes to acoustic guitars. Tracking with the right mic and distance, but doesn't mean that there can't be a bit of processing going on. So let me take all the plugins off. They don't sound bad, but they're recorded in a home studio environment. The strings weren't that fresh, so I had to do some work on them. So SSL channel stereo, adding some 8K, taking out some 500 hertz here. Using some EQ. Look, there was tons of like this really nasty room noise that I took out of the track. Overall, kind of thinned them out. I love using this LA plugin. This is actually a free plugin, and it's great at compressing acoustic guitars. So we're almost there. Then I add this fresh air on top. It's that extra 10% that really brings the guitars to a nice place. So if I play them with the electrics, so before, not present, mushy, and then I added all that top end, and the acoustics are fitting just nicely. There's some mild string tracks sitting in the background, and all I used was expand for this. I just used some different string patches playing chords. And I have a piano patch using the Electric Grand 80. This is a Waves piano. I don't actually like this plugin a whole lot, but I threw it on there and it did the job. So what can I say? There's some processing though. EQ, taking out all the lows. None of it was necessary in the track. These just need to sit right on top. Fresh air. Valhalla Supermassive. And a little stereo widening. Obviously, in a different kind of context, these warm strings could be cool on like a Coldplay track or something, but sitting on top of a rock mix, they need to kind of just sit on the very top of the track. Okay, that's how I recreated the song Home by DAUGHTRY. Let me know in the comments down below how close did I get with this one. I thought this one was pretty good, pretty close in a CLA style mix. It's a pretty simple rock track, but can be really educational to try and recreate. So now let me know in a comment down below, like I said, how to do with this track. I'm going to do a full playthrough of the song so you can hear it. And down below, if you want to contact me and get some help with your productions, let me know. I'd love to help you out and get the recordings that you hear in your head actually into the DAW. So like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.